Blake Reid, royalty recording artist. Welcome to our humble abode. Now, you are originally from Cremona, Alberta?
I am. I was born and raised out there, and I'm still out there on the farm. So
you're a farm boy. You're not a town kid.
No, yeah, I'm 5 generations. My grandpa homesteaded out there in 1902, and so I'm still out there. So
now I know that you're probably busy playing and recording and things. They still get you out on the tractor every once in a while.
Oh yeah. I used to farm full time up until about 3 years ago, and then I took a stab at doing music full time. So my brother's out there farming, all the family land, but he's always dragging my butt out there back in the tractor. So.
We're chatting with Blake Reid. Now, was I know that farming was a big part of life where you grew up. Was music always a big thing in your household, or are you kind of an anomaly to the family?
No, music was always a big part of life. Both grandpas played semi-professionally in bands, and my one grandpa was a pretty accomplished banjo picker, and so they had a dairy, and he played banjo about 4 nights a week. And then my one grandpa bought the historical Wilf Carter farm at Cremona. So Wilf came out, I think in the late 30s, and then my grandpa bought that farm in 1956. So Wilf Carter would stop by, and I was always kind of starstruck as a kid to see him, even when he was 75 years old, to see this country music icon from Canada. And I always had an affinity of music, and then I moved up here to U of A. I had big dreams of being a veterinarian, but biochemistry and Pilsner got in the way of that dream. So I started playing guitar then, and then I played around the clubs and spent some time in Edmonton, and then moved back home to the farm. So
and now you're doing a lot of your own stuff. What is the biggest difference between playing in the clubs and now trying to become a solo artist rather than having a band around you?
Well, I still have a band around me, but I think I've always been a songwriter right from when I was a little kid. When I first picked up a guitar, I always crafted my own music, and now it's just trying to find that identity and come through the music, right? And so playing in the clubs, and people want to hear the latest covers, and I guess as an artist you want to say something, and that's kind of where you go with solo music. So
we're talking with Blake Reid. Now, you mentioned about being a songwriter. You talked about your background, being on the farm, having Wilf Carter stop by all the time, those kind of things. Does that affect what you do in songwriting these days? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, a lot of my music is, as a look back to the past, especially this new album. I have a new album called Rust Out, and that album, the whole project, we looked at it that it's to tip your hat back to the past, and I think we live in such a disposable world right now, whether it's, homes or vehicles, everything needs to be new and shiny. And, when you really look, there's a lot of beauty in things that are a little marked up, right? And I have an old truck that my grandpa had on the farm, and, man, it's beat up and dented, and you have the wear spot on the window where his arm used to be, and my son says, we should paint that, we should fix that up. And I'm like, no, that's where Grandpa's arm was. I like that old truck just the way it is, and that's kind of the idea behind the whole album.
We're talking with Blake Reid. Now, I've heard some of the songs off of the album, and in many different ways, it really does kind of bring together two different worlds. You talked about the one where your grandpa comes from, but you've kind of got a newish sound to it. How do you meld those two together in a way that works well?
Well, I think I've always had an ear for maybe southern influences, like southern rock and what we call a flat 7 progression. And then I worked with a producer by the name of Phil O'Donnell, and Phil actually produced Gord Bamford's last album out of Nashville. And Phil has a very contemporary idea of music, but at the same time he can hold that traditional sound in it. So lyrically it's fairly traditional, but musically it still has the energy of today's music. So
we're talking to Royalty Records recording artist Blake Reid. I see that you brought your guitar with you here today.
Absolutely.
Would you care to play a song for us?
For sure, yeah.
First of all, tell us a little bit about what you're going to be playing for us, what the song is called, what it's about.
I'm going to play the title track off the album Rust. And like I said, it's a throwback and just appreciating the beauty in life that isn't necessarily new. And whether it's relationships or material things, that's what it's about.
Blake Reid, live here on CFWE.
Thanks, Warren. Old trains and graveyard tractors, barbed wire strung around a pasture, and anything left out in the rain. With time and age, it just looks better, like barn roofs and old Winchesters, the kind of beauty only God can paint. And like love, all good things with time might lose a little of its shine. Wear and tear just enhances. It's like texture on a canvas. Some see it as a defect, an imperfection they just can't stand. But not me, the color in life I love is rust. I say to hell with bright and shiny. Plastic don't hold up like iron. And there's something about paper-thin fenders that's just wrong. Look at railroad rails and old trestle bridges. Them tornadoes can't even twist them. Look at those old silos standing strong. And like love, all good things with time might lose a little of its shine. Wear and tear just enhances. It's like texture on a canvas. Some see it as a defect, an imperfection they just can't stand. But not me, the color in life I love is rust. Like the scars that come with age, faded colors on a page. Nothing more than a coat of paint on some good old days. And like love, all good things with time might lose a little of its shine. Wear and tear just enhances. It's like texture on a canvas. And some see it as a defect, an imperfection they just can't stand. But not me, the color in life I love is rust. Hey, talking about rust.
Blake Reid on CFWE. His song called Rust. That's the title track from the latest album. You have a current single out, which we're going to play here in just a moment. Cowboys Were Kings. Tell us a little bit about that song.
Well, I think, growing up, there was always, whether it's movies or people that would stop by and buy hay off the farm, we had contracts with a number of outfitters out in the mountains, horse outfitters and guiders. And there was always something magical about, the old cowboy that would show up there. Not the flashy cowboy, but the old cowboy with the old sweaty cowboy hat and the kerchief and, the bow in his legs and the gravel in his voice. And there was something magical about that. And, I spent some time traveling back and forth to Calgary, working a day job while I was pursuing music and farming on the side. And sitting in traffic, I was just, you'd look west toward the mountains when you're on Highway 2, and you think, man, like what would have been like back in the day when it was just grass, right? And that's kind of where that song comes from. It's a little bit of an escape from the drive and from the life. So
we're chatting with Blake Reid. We'll play the single here in just a moment. I did want to talk to you a little bit about the national anthem last night at the Major League All-Star game. Have you probably sung national anthems at rodeos and everywhere?
Yeah.
What is your take on people trying to change the national anthem?
Don't do it. Don't do it, especially not at that kind of platform. I haven't heard it yet. I just kind of read some tweets about it. But I don't know. I'm pretty patriotic, and I'm down home, and I've got grandpas and uncles that fought in the war, and I'm keep it as it is type guy.
That was kind of my thought on it as well, and I did see it live as I was getting ready for my own baseball game last night, which was by no means all-star involved in any way, shape, or form. But they started singing, then they did a bit of a French, and then I'm kind of half listening, and that doesn't sound like English or French, the versions that I know. And then I finished the baseball game, and Twitter had blown up about this. And that was always my thought about the national anthem. And people have asked me as I've been emceeing different events around, was, any advice? I say, make sure that everybody can sing along.
Yeah, that's right.
This is not your song. Do not try to make it your song.
Yeah.
This is the song for the country. There's a lot of patriotic people who are going to be out there in the stands, and they want to sing along with this song, so don't take that away from them.
And musically, you want to make sure you're deadly and right on. You don't want to be tripping over each other, too. I don't know. I didn't hear, but the other members of the Tenors, were they singing different lines or how?
Well, and again, I was only kind of watching out of one eye and listening with one ear, but they each had the part where they did all of their harmonies and things, and then he kind of had the solo where he did his thing, and again, it was one of those. I kind of looked. I'm sure that as I was standing there and I was getting all this stuff ready, that my head, when a dog is really confused, and it kind of turns its head sideways because it's not exactly sure what it's hearing.
What just happened? Yeah,
exactly. So, hopefully, a lot of people can learn from the mistakes of the Tenors when it comes to putting together the national anthem.
Well, it's funny you say that, because a lot of times it's kind of the last thing that people think of when they're organizing an event. And I know I've played lots of rodeos and boleramas, and you're getting ready for sound check, and then they say, "Hey, would you mind singing the national anthem?" And it's there's a lot of pressure to sing in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people, and they get you in the back of a pickup, and you're like, "Holy crap! I hope I can remember all the words right."
I've only ever had to sing the national anthem once, and that's when the computer system that we were using. And I'm a guy who sings the anthem when I go to hockey games and football games and things like that. But when you're the guy leading the charge, it's a little bit different than just being one of the people singing along.
Yeah, that's right.
We're chatting with Blake Reid. Thank you very much for coming in here and joining us here today.
Yeah. Well, thanks,
if people want to find out more about you and your music, they can go online. You've got the website.
Yeah. I got blakereid.ca that has tour information and music information. As well, I use Facebook lots, so hop on Facebook, search me up, Blake Reid. And I also have an artist page, and I'm on Twitter. So,
all right.
Find me.